Alright, today we're going to talk about how to prove that a quadrilateral is in fact a parallelogram. So all we're going to do is kind of use the reverse of the theorems that we've already used in class previously. So let's talk about this first one, parallelogram properties. It has four sides, so it is a type of quadrilateral. Alright, so it's a type of quadrilateral. Both pairs of opposite sides are what? They're what and what? Well, think about the name parallelogram. So opposite sides are parallel, and those opposite sides are congruent. Okay? Then we talk about angles. Well, consecutive angles are supplementary, which means that the consecutive angles will add up to 180 degrees, so the consecutive angles are supplementary, and the opposite angles are congruent. Just jotting all this down. Then don't forget that since you have parallel sides, there are alternate interior angles, and those are also going to be congruent. And then the diagonals will bisect each other. Okay, so we in class have discussed these already. Now we're going to use them to kind of go backward and find out if a shape is in fact a parallelogram. So let's look at number one. Tell whether the quadrilateral is a parallelogram and explain your reasoning. Well, the things that are marked in the picture are sides. And what do we know about sides? We have to know that the opposite sides are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent. And is that what's going on in this picture? It doesn't look like to me. So opposite sides are not congruent. So this is not a parallelogram. And you have to have all of this on your paper. Okay, because it says to explain your reasoning. So opposite sides are not congruent. So this is not a parallelogram. Okay? So let's look at number two. Tell whether the quadrilateral is parallelogram and explain your reasoning. Well, these are angles, and the thing we know about the angles are opposite angles congruent. And here, the opposite angles are congruent, so it's a parallelogram. Okay, so you have to give the explanation. Opposite angles are congruent, so it is a parallelogram. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to have you try number one, and I'm going to have you try number two, and make sure you do explain your reasoning. Make sure that you explain your reasoning right there, okay? Explain your reasoning. Let's look at three. In quadrilateral W, X, Y, Z, now I have to draw things. So W, X, Y, Z. So go ahead and draw that picture. Now remember, if I'm going too fast, you can pause it. You could also go back and you could rewatch it. One thing that I see students do, some of them just fast forward to my writing and then write everything down, and they actually have no idea what I've said whatsoever. So that's kind of pointless. Like you're just drawing things down and you have no idea what the lesson's about. So make sure you are watching it, rewinding it, and pausing it when you need to learn what you need to learn. So we know WX is 15. And we know that YZ is 20. And we know XY is 15. And we know ZW is 20. Okay. So if it's set up like this, is this a parallelogram? All right, what I would like you to do is I want you to finish this one now that we have drawn the picture. So you finish this one on your own and tell me if it's a parallelogram or not. Okay? So let's move it down here. Tell whether the quadrilateral is parallelogram and explain your reasoning. So I would have to find out what angle W is. Well, how many degrees are in a parallelogram? Or I should say, how many degrees are in a quadrilateral? 360, right? So 95 plus 85 plus 85 plus angle W would have to add up to 360 degrees. So the next thing you would want to do is add those numbers up there, and you will get 265 plus angle W equals 360. And then what you want to do is subtract 265 from both sides, and you get that angle W is 95 degrees. So right here, this is 95 degrees. Is this a parallelogram? Well, yeah, because its opposite angles are congruent. So yes, because opposite angles are congruent. But you couldn't tell me that unless you find the other angle. You can't tell me that unless you find the other angle. So I'm going to have you try B on your own and bring that to class. You can always pause it now and do it, or do it at the end of the video. It's up to you. Let's look at C. We have some problems here with C. I can't even use the 360 rule because I have two angles I don't know. Right? There's nothing else you can do here. There's not enough information. So not enough information to be able to tell if this one is or not. Okay? So we can't say it's a parallelogram because we don't have enough info. Okay? Let's move it down here. Tell whether the quadrilateral is parallelogram. Explain your reasoning. Okay. Well, what are these things that they are putting on here? These are your diagonals, right? So, are the diagonals bisected? Does this equal this, and does this one equal this one? It does. So, yes, because diagonals are bisected. So this works because diagonals are bisected. What about B? How about you try B? Yes or no? Is it a parallelogram, and why? And those are still diagonals we're dealing with there. Okay, so this brings us to the end. So make sure when you come to class that you've finished up all these extra problems here that I've asked you to do on your own. Okay? And if you have any questions, make sure you bring those to class too. All right, see you in class. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.